In this video, we're going to look at how you can use a few really cool mix techniques to bring a bunch of lead vocal melody takes together into a wall of sound. In the previous videos, we looked at how you can record a simple vocal line and then add to it by recording a number of different takes. We've looked at how you can correct the timing and align the vocals, and we've also looked at how you can pitch the vocals and prepare them for mixing. In this video, we're going to take a look at some of the behind the scenes things that have been going on top of these vocal tracks in the previous videos. Let's quickly start this video by just soloing the vocals and having a little listen to how they sound at this current point in time. The first thing I want to draw your attention to is the distorted lead vocal track. It's quite a distinct difference when I turn that distortion off and then turn it back on again. Quadrafuzz is one of my favorite distortion effects to put over a vocal, and that's because it's a multi-band processor, meaning I can choose from one of 4 different bands to add distortion to. And the other cool thing is there's lots of different options in terms of distortion types. So I can use these tabs here to add different colors of distortion. This is my favorite distortion sound for vocals, and particularly over this band because I feel like it just cuts through the mix, especially when it's blended with just a normal lead vocal unison. Another cool feature inside of Quadrafuzz is the ability to add a delay over a particular band. So if I click on this button, I can now set the sync point or the timing for the delay. And now I've got a really nice distant distorted delay. I can do a few other things like pan the vocals, I can change the width and also adjust how much of this delay is actually in the mix that's going out. The only problem I have using a delay inside of Quadrafuzz on a lead vocal is that I'm using Quadrafuzz specifically for that distorted sound, not for the delay. So I might want to set it up just as its own individual delay and set it up as its own individual distortion so that I've got exact control over both of the different effects. At the end of the day, there's more than one application for Quadrafuzz, and it's a really cool plugin. But just the way it helps that lead vocal cut through is really cool if you're doubling lead vocals, or even if you've doubled up harmonies and you want to put some distortion over the top of the harmonies. My distorted lead vocal is quite bright, and the only problem I've got now is that my lead vocal track is quite dull in comparison. So I'm going to go up to the frequency insert, which is an 8-band EQ inside of Cubase. And I'm just going to add some air on the high end. I might tip it over the edge and make it too bright, but you should be able to hear the contrast there with frequency turned on in comparison to it turned off. Now together, they're sounding quite uniformed. But I wouldn't mind actually putting that same EQ over the top of some of the other lead vocals. So once again, I've gone to my insert section and I'm just holding down Option or Alt and I'm dragging that frequency plugin over, which will also drag the EQ over with the current EQ that I have drawn in there. So it's very quick to add one effect to the other channels that you've recorded. And that also makes the whole mix process a lot more streamlined. In the last video, I mentioned that you can use channel strip settings and presets to find a combination of different types of effects and EQs and dynamics to really help your track sound, well, a lot better. Now, in the previous video, we added those effects over individual channels. But I want to quickly mention that you can also load the channel strip presets and combinations over the top of group channels. So you can have one channel strip for a vocal out in its own individual channel and another channel strip for a group of channels, which might even help control the sound even more and help it pop through. But one important thing to remember is you can add a channel strip over almost any type of channel in Cubase, so it might also be a matter of adding it over the top of the other components in your mix. So drums, bass, guitars, for example, if you're recording band tracks. Another big part of the mix component is picking up on any errors or any mistakes that you may have made previously in the production process. And look, mistakes happen. Quite often people are picking up on them in mastering. Like right now, at the end of this track, I can hear that the tuning's not quite accurate and also there's a mouse click. So if I go and have a look at it, I can see that I haven't really done a particularly good job of editing the end of these events. Let's have another quick listen to it. And there's that mouse click. So I could use my range selector tool or just pick up on the folder track and shorten that. And as always, have a quick listen. In the last video, we added sends from the group channels to an effects track. So on this particular effects track, I have got Revelation, which is an algorithmic reverb. Now, reverbs pretty much add room space or ambience. So they're designed to imitate how recording will sound in different types of rooms or halls or even small spaces. And it's cool because very quickly we can take a very dry sounding vocal, and by dry I mean it sounds like the microphone's close, and we can transfer that or translate it into how that vocal would sound with a lot of ambience or a lot of space or a lot more warmth. As with everything when it comes to music production, the question is how much is too much? And you can use that mix fader on the right hand side to reduce the amount of reverb that's been sent out of the plugin and into your mix. Too much reverb can be the same as getting your thumb and putting a massive smudge all the way along the top of writing that's been written in pencil. It all comes down to personal choice, but a good rule is to make sure that you can hear what the vocalist is actually saying in terms of lyrics. And once again, make sure that you take full advantage of all of the different presets that come included in the Reverb plugins. I've got two effects tracks here with sends set up from the vocals, and on the second one, I've got a stereo delay. Now, a stereo delay basically repeats what the lead vocalist is saying based on a specific set of instructions. We can say to the delay unit, I want you to repeat on a quarter note, an eighth note, a 16 note, and you can have different settings for both left and right channels, and you can also define how many times the delay is actually repeated. So for instance, I might select 1, 2, which is a minimum for anyone that reads dots, and now you can hear that that delay is repeating on every second beat. As I start moving down the menu, the delay gets faster. Delays are a really cool effect, but they can be confusing because it's basically repeating what the vocalist is singing. So you're kind of getting the message after the message is being delivered, which can, once again, like the reverb, get in the road of what the vocalist is actually singing and saying. So there's a really neat trick that we can use to bring that delay in and out, and therefore giving us maximum impact when it does actually kick in. And that's using automation. So if I come down here to my effects channel, you can see that there's a line going across the screen horizontally. Now I can just get my pencil and put a marker in there, and get my pencil again and put another marker in there. Now, as I put this marker in, I can start to draw up, and that is the volume for this effects channel. So you can see that that's bringing the fader up on the channel. And it's just a matter of getting the actual delay right. So it's the same as moving the fader up and turning the delay on, and then once again putting in some more dots and drawing the delay out. And now it's just a matter of drawing in the volume changes when I want the delay to come in.
I can't believe you're saying this is all you want, so it's all you get.
So it's a really effective way of just having one vocal line or hook delayed, and therefore, like I said earlier, having maximum impact when that delay kicks in. We can automate almost anything in Cubase, and one idea I've had is for this high octave lead vocal track, because there's this little section here before the second chorus of my track that has a really quick melody. And I did wonder how it would sound if I raised the volume of the high octave vocal.
Now I can't believe you're saying this is all you want, so it's all you get.
Providing your track is still in write mode, you can also pick up on the fader and now start to make adjustments to the fader. And Cubase is reading everything that you do to the fader, and as soon as you stop recording, you'll be able to see all of those movements represented as dots out there in the project window. So my main reason for pushing the volume up in this specific area was just to add a little bit of extra high octave, just to make this section of the track seem a little bit beefier or meatier. I prefer to have my ambience, so things like delays and reverbs, on their own effects channel. You can also put them individually over individual channels, but for me it makes sense to have them set up as send channels, because then we can add other tracks to them if we want to. So like if we want the guitar to use the same reverb, then we can just set up a send. So at the moment, I've just set up an individual send to a new effects channel just for one lead vocal track. So you can see that during the mix process, we can have sends that go from every group vocal to one specific effect, or we can just have one send on one of our lead vocal tracks going to its own individual reverb. So that means there's so many different routing options and effects options for us to really give each one of these lead vocal tracks that we're doubling and tripling and quadrupling their own unique sound. Over the course of this video series, we've used some really simple techniques to transfer some really average vocal lines that sound like this into a tight and tuned wall of vocals that sound like this.
You came on like a heart attack in the middle of a bad dream. You woke me up and turned me around.
There's plenty more videos around on the Cubase YouTube channel that show you how to achieve everything that we've managed to look at in this video series. Please like this video if you've learned something, and subscribe to the channel for more ideas on how you can be creative using Cubase. I'll see you in one of the videos.